Traditionally, we think that strategy making is rational and analytical. However, my research shows that it's actually highly emotional. What happens is that strategic decision makers, when they face new information and difficult situations, they react with emotion to that information. And their emotions then influence how they think, how they behave, and what they decide. And often these behaviors and decisions are not what you would call rational, but rather contribute to company failures and difficulties. My research also shows how you can regulate those emotional reactions so that they do not harm your strategy making, but rather you use emotions to your advantage, or at least avoid harm from the emotions. So when companies are formulating strategy, they need to look at a lot of data, a lot of information from the external environment and also from inside the company. They need to understand what competitors are doing, how customer needs are evolving, what new technologies and other trends there are. And all this information provides them understanding of threats and opportunities in the environment. In addition to processing the information, they develop emotional reactions to the environment. They see a threat, and this threat triggers emotional reaction like fear in management team. And the fear then can influence their reactions and behaviors in three distinct ways. One is that they look away or hide their head in the sand. So management tries to avoid the threat, tries to avoid the fear by not looking at the threat. And this, of course, causes that the company cannot adapt to the difficult situation, but just maintains its current strategy. Another reaction is paralysis. So there is high awareness of the threat, a lot of attention to the threat, but like a deer looking at the headlights, the management is just looking at the threat without making any moves, and the train is coming, and then they die. A third option is sometimes companies panic. So management sees the threat and understands that they need to do something, and they need to do something fast. Then they make a lot of expensive acquisitions or initiate other types of expensive transformation programs that typically cause more harm than benefits. And in this way, fear can harm your company and undermine your strategy making. My empirical research on Nokia shows how in early 2000s, when Nokia smartphones were threatened by the introduction of Android and iPhone, how management team paid attention to these threats but developed strong fear reactions, and this fear then actually made them look away. So management did not want to fully attend to the iPhone threat, and rather there was emotional comments that you had to look away or you were not allowed to speak about the iPhone. And in this way, the company did not understand the full implications of the threat and therefore didn't develop strong response quickly enough. And this is how fear contributed to the failure of Nokia's phone business around 2010. In addition to fear, there are other types of emotional reactions that external situations trigger. And one of those reactions is anger. You can be angry at a competitor if they make a strong move. You can get angry at your customers, but the anger reaction can make you behave in very aggressive ways. This can be overly risky acquisitions or other type of risky moves or hostile moves that in the long term undermine your performance and harm your company in unexpected ways. Sometimes the anger is not directed at the environment but happens inside the company. Departments can compete against one another. One department wants to promote their favorite strategy, another department wants to promote their favorite strategy, and this creates conflict between them, politics, fighting, backstabbing, sabotage, and deception, and various kind of behaviors that harm the company and prevent optimal strategy making. You can also do something about these emotional dynamics. There is a lot of popular literature on individual level tactics like mindfulness, emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and other techniques that provide some benefit. They help you calm down, they help you at the individual level to process the information in a calmer way, less emotionally, and improve your thinking. But that's not enough. because strategies are made by organizations and there are multiple teams in organizations. Hence, you need to understand how you can create a structure and process that manages the overall emotions in strategy making so that the overall strategy process comes up with the best understanding and best strategic options and best strategic choice for your firm. My latest research on Nokia shows how Nokia conducted this structurally distributed emotion regulation in 2012-2013 when they were letting go of the Windows Phone strategy and ultimately divested the phone business. In Nokia's case, the board of directors, which is not visible in this picture but influences the top management team on the top, the board created a very structured process that the top management team had to follow, and this structured process helped the top management to attend to the situation and information in what we call digestible pieces. So the process helped management to pay attention to information in a piece-by-piece fashion so that the emotional reactions did not get overwhelming at any point. First, the board introduced new norms, behavioral norms for top management team that helped to improve the climate of the management team and psychological safety in the management team. This included rules like assume the best of intentions of others and bad news is good news so that people would react in a more friendly way to difficult information. The second step was looking at the external environment and understanding the dynamics of the external environment without yet jumping to conclusions so that they would attend to the situation more richly. Third step was then generating strategic options for Nokia without yet making choice. Again, this just generating options gives weaker emotional reactions because you are not yet jumping to the choice, and that's why it helped reduce the emotion from the process. And finally, they made the choice. In this way, the board helped the management team to structure their thinking and emotional reactions better. In addition, there were analytical teams and external consultants who helped management team to process the information available for them. So instead of the management team going through all the details of all the options and all the external situation, there were teams that helped draw implications from the analysis and top management to focus their attention on the most relevant parts. And this reduced the load for management and hence the emotional toll for the management. And in this way, the analytical teams helped regulate the management's emotions. For example, initially the management team felt that acquiring the Nokia Siemens networks would be a bad strategic option and this triggered negative emotional reactions. But then when analytical teams scrutinized the option, they learned various benefits from the option and then communicated these to the management team, which then changed top management's emotions, and hence the analytical team helped management change their emotion. Likewise, management initially felt that divesting the phone business would be an unpleasant or negative option, but when analytical teams found information that it actually would benefit Nokia then and communicated that to the management emotion again changed, and this enabled Nokia's radical strategic renewal. In sum, my research has shown that strategy making is highly emotional. Top managers react with emotion to the information that they perceive, and these emotions can harm strategy making. My research also shows that you can regulate these emotions and in this way improve your strategy making. Essentially, you need to take an organizational perspective, think of strategy making as an analytical process, but also as an emotional process, and you need to design the processes such that you optimize also the emotional dynamics. Now, this was, of course, just a short presentation and one company example. There are several others presented in these books and elsewhere in case studies. So please take a look and read more. Thank you for listening. I'm Timo Vuori.